everyone. I'm Karen Yankovich, and I'm here with Lacy Boggs. And this is the series that I started doing a few weeks ago, or a few months ago, I guess, actually now. Just women that are supporting women. You know that my business supports women, primarily women on LinkedIn with LinkedIn marketing and personal branding. And I know so many amazing people that have been on my podcast, like Lacy, and I wanted you to meet them. So we are streaming live on LinkedIn and in my private Facebook group, the public private Facebook group. So the one that anybody can join, not the one that, and you can check that out at KarenYankovich.com/Facebook group. But yeah, so Lacy, thanks for being here.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, so tell everybody a little bit about you and what you do.
Sure. So I have a small digital marketing agency called the Content Direction Agency, and we help busy entrepreneurs create content in their voice that will help move their business forward. So any kind of ongoing content like blogs, weekly email newsletters, we're even expanding into some microblogging and things like that. So anything that people need on an ongoing basis, that's our sweet spot. That's what we like to do the best.
Cool. Because content is still king, right? Like content is still king. Even with my podcast, I find that I'm always looking to do show notes and blogs and transcripts because content really, they're definitely, listen, at the end of the day, it's a podcast. So the audio is what is, 80% of the content is the audio, but there's a huge value to the written content as well.
Well, for sure. And a lot of times for podcasters in particular, we turn their podcast into articles because you get different SEO, Google juice from an article than you do from a podcast. Google has only just started to crawl audio content with its little spiders. And it's all, if you've ever had a transcript done by a computer, you'll know how inaccurate it is.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So that's what Google's using to crawl podcasts for SEO. So it's not great yet. So the written word is still king, especially for that. And the other thing is, for example, if you're trying to hit some specific SEO keywords, it's very hard to do when you're just speaking, right? Like I have to remember to say this particular SEO keyword phrase.
That's true. That's very true.
But when we turn it into an article, that's super easy for us to do. So that's one way we help podcasters in particular. Yeah.
Right. Oh, I love that. So tell me about microblogging. What's micro?
Well, so microblogging is kind of what you would do here on LinkedIn. So of course on LinkedIn, you have articles, which can be long. That would be more like a regular blog post, but you also have your news feed. And there's, you're going to have to correct me. I don't know exactly what the character limit is, but it's pretty short.
It is pretty, I don't know it off the top of my head, but there's about 25 different character limits on LinkedIn in different sections. So
it's I want to say it's about 200 words or less.
It's short. It is short.
So
it's shorter than I think it's going to be.
Right.
Yeah. Let's see if I can, let's go to Google and find out the answer to that.
Real quick. But yeah, that's what I would consider microblogging. But the same sort of thing, you could do that on LinkedIn in the news feed. You could do it on Facebook. Facebook actually lets you have a little more. You could do it on Instagram. Some people are doing that, but it's where you're trying to make a point in about 200, 250 words. So that's kind of microblogging. And sometimes we do it around to support a longer article, to support a blog post. But other times it's just hey, let's get some content out there in 200 words or less.
I love that because, can it be both, Lacy, too? I always feel rather than trying to continue to create new content, I want to make sure that I am squeezing every bit of juice I can out of that I'm already creating, right? Like I have the podcast. So you're making me think maybe we should do a couple of micro blogs from each podcast and share them to different places and use different keywords for that. I love that idea.
Yeah, and if you're getting your podcast transcribed anyway, it's pretty easy to pull out chunks, to take chunks of it that make a nice point, that make a nice little standalone post. It's a great thing to do if you're doing video like this, if you're doing podcasts, or if you have a more traditional blog post, you can do the same thing.
Yeah,
I'm with you. I like to squeeze all the good juice out of it. If you're going to do all of the trouble to create a big piece of content,
you did the research, you did all of that. Why come up with more and more ideas? I can't find this quickly enough to not waste waste my
I can't Google and
LinkedIn
talk at the same
publishing
time
post
either.
headline. So maybe LinkedIn publishing post headline, 150 characters. Is that this?
That's a
Because then the
headline.
next one is LinkedIn publishing content link. So maybe that's the post, the
Yeah.
content, the headline for the actual content, because that's
For the content.
120,000.
And that's really, yeah.
120,000 characters, but it doesn't
That
actually
must be for the article.
say.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Company update. I don't know. Anyway, well, we don't want to give fake news here, so
No fake
we'll
news.
figure it out later.
We can put it in the comments, right?
Right. So if you guys are on Facebook, if you haven't logged into StreamYard, we don't necessarily know who you are. So there's somebody that's showing up as Facebook user that I love that. So we love you, Facebook user. We just don't know who you are.
Facebook user.
So just so you know, we're not being rude when we don't call you out. You could log into StreamYard, though. I'm not actually sure how, but I think it's in the post how to do that. And then we know who you are. So like, tell us. I mean, I do think that, it's interesting because podcasts. I started my podcast. We're on episode like I don't know, 65 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So 100. It's probably more like 185 weeks because we miss a few weeks here and there, right? So
sure.
So I love it. I do miss blogging, and I do think that there are people that don't listen to podcasts that are not catching my content that used to. So we do try to pull a blog out of each thing, but I think too that it really is important, even with Google's crawlers and the audio, that oh my gosh, Lee, thank you. Even with good, with the audio, I think that we have to remember the importance of Google and the importance of SEO, and that, and not that if you don't get SEO, it's a bad thing,
right?
But it's like, why leave any money on the table?
No, totally. And one of our things is we always write for humans first. But if we can make Google happy in the meantime, why not? Like, why not do that?
Exactly.
Especially when you've been doing it a long time. Those little crawlers, those little spiders will start sending you traffic. It probably took 4 years before I started getting people telling me they found me on Google.
I know.
But now I do. I get a couple of months people reaching out who say, "Hey, I found you on Google," and I'm like, "Great, let's go."
I know, and I'm still always trying to do a better job with that too. Like, I don't know. Sometimes I don't know. I've got somebody that's helping me with SEO right now, and it's making my head spin a little bit. But then I had somebody reach out to me that scheduled a call with me that said, "Oh yeah, I Googled LinkedIn podcast, and that's how I found you." I was like, "Oh my God. Thank God."
I know, it's like, right, it's working.
Right? Because I know that there's a reason to do it, but it is a lot of work. Not that it's a lot of work, but it's about getting it right and then just kind of replicating it each week.
Well, and it's funny sometimes. I do recommend working with an SEO expert, because we have a gal on our team. And what I find is that sometimes what people are Googling is not what you would normally say, or not what you would think. So, for example, I find, oh my
gosh, so true.
Yeah, like people type in blog writer on Google, but I would never call myself, like, I'd never be like, "Hey, I'm a blog writer." Like, that's just not what I would say. Right. But that's what they search for. So I try to work that into my content a little more often, because that's what they're searching for.
Right. And there's lots of easy ways to find what they're searching for, with or without an SEO expert around, right? So there's lots of easy ways to do that. So what else is going on in your world? It's been a while since our podcast. Let me see. It was episode 68. So it was like a long time ago.
Quite a while ago. Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy that it was so long ago.
Yeah.
Let's actually put that up. If you guys want to check that out, you can check it out at KarenYankovich.com/068. So we will save that baby.
Yeah.
What else is going on in your world? So you tell us who you help. What kinds of people do you help?
So we primarily help personality-driven brands. So we tend to be industry agnostic, meaning it doesn't really matter what you do or what you sell, but the types of people that are attracted to us have a really strong personality brand. So it's usually a person behind the brand that is the voice of the brand. And since we specialize in creating content that sounds like you, that tends to be the kind of people we attract. A lot of times they say things like, "Oh, I worked with a copywriter before, but they couldn't get my voice right," and that's the kind of person that we're looking for, because that's what we specialize.
You know what? It's so funny. We had a conversation about this. So I have a LinkedIn group program that she's linked up, accelerator program. Which we have plenty of men in, and there were a couple men on the call today, and we were having a conversation about. We were talking about, so what I want on LinkedIn is for you to get high paying clients so that you're so busy that you have to hire somebody to do the stuff you don't want to do.
Like content.
Like that's what exactly. That's my goal for you. So somebody came on the call today and he's like, "Oh my gosh, I haven't even gotten to this stuff because I've been so busy with clients." I was like, "Yay. Like that's what I want to hear." And he's like, "What?" I'm like, "No, that's the goal. That's the goal." So we want you to be thinking now about, what can you outsource of that stuff, right? So what he was saying was that he does videos and he does blogs and he can't find anybody that can get his voice right. And our like kind of advice to him was, you first of all, yes, you can find somebody to get your voice right, but second of all, it's never going to be as perfect as you want it to be as if it's you, right? Yeah. So sometimes you have to like let go of a little bit of control in an effort in the effort for the greater good, right? Because he was saying that is the thing he hates the most. Takes him 15 minutes to record the video and 2.5 hours to do the little bit of content around that. So if you're listening, you should call Lacy.
Well, first of all, if he's doing the video, I mean, for us, that's like easy peasy, because then we can actually hear him speak. We're actually getting him speaking from the horse's mouth, so to speak. So it's much easier to get his voice. So it may just be a matter he hasn't found the right person. But I 100% agree with you that there is an element of having to let it go and let good enough be good enough. However, you definitely don't want to settle for something that feels really off.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's finding that balance.
Right. It is. Exactly. It's exactly right. It is finding the balance. But at the end of the day, if it's the thing that you just despise doing, right? Then
guess what? People will know. Like if you hate it, people will be able to tell.
That's interesting. You're probably right about that. Yeah. So, okay. So most of your clients have blogs or podcasts or videos. Is that pretty much the kind of market that you work in?
I find that a lot of our clients right now are leaning more towards doing a video or a podcast and then letting us pull stuff out and create content from that. But we do have a lot of clients also for whom we create from whole cloth, meaning like they give us an idea or we come up with an idea together, and then the writer researches it, interviews them, whatever has to happen, and creates it 100% originally.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
So how has your business shifted in this like pandemic world we're living in now? Like, I mean, I think that I don't know. Let me not throw an answer in your mouth. Has your business shifted and or how has it shifted?
What's funny is so March was scary. March felt like everything fell off a cliff. I had no inquiries. I had no business. I had people canceling. Like it was scary. And then things have slowly picked back up again since then. So I think that for my business, my industry anyway, people felt like, whoa, like put the brakes on for a minute. And then they realized they had to keep doing something. And so we've actually had several people come who were mostly offline businesses, and they've decided to take their stuff online. And so they're brand new to it. And so they need help. They need help getting the marketing piece going, getting content going. So we have actually had several people who had a much bigger impact from the pandemic than we did, but now they're like transitioning and pivoting and doing something different. And so we're helping them do that.
So Cheryl is saying she needs help. So how can Cheryl find you?
Awesome. LacyBoggs.com. If you go to LacyBoggs.com/undercover, that's where you can see my packages. And there's a big red button to get on a call with me. So Cheryl, go find that big red button and book a time to talk to me.
And if you go to the podcast, KarenYankovich.com/068, all of her links are in there too.
Yeah.
Well, because I'm thinking is, and this is something actually we were talking about on that same call today, is that I think one of the things that I've seen shift is that a lot of people that were kind of coming to digital marketing kicking and screaming, or virtual work, or virtual assistants, or people working from home, are now looking at it going, we have no choice. Right. Like, because those are the people that are embracing it are the people that are not just thriving, but surviving, not just surviving, but thriving, right. During the time. So, so I would think that would keep you busy.
Yeah. Yeah. So far.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do a lot with, helping people get organized, helping people prioritize. So a lot of the strategy calls I do is really just like, how do I prioritize? What do I need to do first? Give me a checklist.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, I have lots of ideas, or I have lots of content. Cheryl's saying she has loads of content. I just had a client who has tons of content that we were like, how do we go through and repurpose this? So she had been doing a podcast, but she had a whole bunch of episodes recorded that she'd never published. So it's like, how do we repurpose those? How do we create, a social media schedule that'll get all the goodies out of it, all that kind of stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So obviously you can also connect with Lacy on LinkedIn.
Yes.
If you're watching this on LinkedIn, you can connect with Lacy on LinkedIn. And I'm so glad we did this, Lacy, because it's been a while since we've caught up. So I'm glad we had a chance to catch up. You guys should totally check out Lacy's stuff, because honestly, you're good at what you're good at, I was, we are actually looking at our podcast, with a little bit of new eyes, because what I basically said to somebody is our podcast should be the shining star of our business, not the thing that we just get out every week. Do you know what I mean? It should be the shining star of our business. And I personally, maybe I'm being a little bit more of a perfectionist now, but I'm not feeling it's that right now, so I think that, but I love doing the podcast, but what I do is LinkedIn strategy, not look at it going, what's the SEO doing? Need a transcript, what are, and like all these other things, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, podcasts are tricky because they're really great discovery engine, like getting people to discover you, but it can be tricky to get them off the podcast and come take action to do something else. Do you get a lot of leads from the podcast?
I do get.
That's good.
The podcast. I don't get. It's interesting. I let's just say I started my podcast like 2.5, maybe 3. It'll be 3 years probably in the fall. And at the time, podcasts were kind of making a comeback, but nothing like it is now. So I was like, I'm going to do this podcast and I'm going to have all these downloads and it's going to be great. And then everybody in the world started a podcast.
And their dog started a podcast.
So, and I love that because it means podcasts are popular. But what it also means is like, listen, if I sat here and just listened to all the podcasts that I want to listen to, I would do it until I was 95.
Yes.
I'd have that's how many hours of podcasts that I intend to listen to in the next week, like 17 years worth of audio.
Right.
So it's not that. So I'm not getting the number of downloads I thought I was going to get, and I don't think I know that it's not because people don't like the content. Right. I know that it's because people just don't. There's so much content out there.
There's so much.
So because of that, I do think it's important that we are really intentional about what we put out there and how we put it out. The other interesting thing, though, Lacy, about my podcast that I didn't expect, but that I know was not the same with the blog, was I get downloads to every episode of my podcast every single month. So I know that didn't happen with my blog. I know that people weren't reading blogs from 2 years ago. However, if I look at my Google Analytics at the top, things that I'm coming up for, they're old blog posts, which I probably should make into podcast episodes now if people are searching for them, right? But that being said, so there's a lot of stuff around all of this, a lot of like strategy around.
Content is a long game, no matter which kind you're playing, so like with those old blog posts, I would 100% recommend you make sure they are optimized for people to opt in for your list and things like that. Because if you're getting traffic, you definitely want to take advantage of it. And then, the podcast thing, like having them download every single episode is getting some downloads each month. That's so good. But you're right about sometimes blog posts don't feel like that. And yet you're creating a body of work. So there are always people who are going to be those outliers who go back and like read back or see what you've written or that kind of thing. So the other thing is, if we're creating evergreen content, those old blog posts can still be used. We can still promote them on our social media channels, turn them into podcasts, as you said. I mean, the way I wrote my book is pulling a whole bunch of blog posts together and editing them and making them, a coherent piece of work, a body of work. So they're useful for lots of things.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, cool. So somebody else asked how to find you. So that's why we put your website up,
Thank you.
lacyboggs.com. And you was like lacyboggs.com/undercover,
Undercover,
right? Get your
because we go
packages. Yeah.
undercover as you.
You have the best branding. You have
Oh,
the
thank
best
you.
branding. You do.
Thank
It's
you.
so fun. I remember when you rebranded, I was like, this is so cool.
It's almost 6 years. It's 6 years ago this
Is
month
it
that
is
we
it
did the
really?
photos. Yeah.
Have we known each other that long?
Yeah, I think
I guess
so.
we have.
That's like dog years and internet years.
Yes, exactly. So true. It's so true. Oh my gosh. So cool. So, all right. So everybody knows how to find Lacy. Definitely check out lacyboggs.com/undercover to see her packages. And I highly recommend Lacy and everything she does. It's really, really good stuff.
Thank
And
you.
content, I mean, it really is. I don't, like I had said to earlier in this call, and that I had said in my call earlier, I really want you to be running a business where you can have a budget for somebody like Lacy,
Yeah.
right? Because if you're doing good things, and that's where LinkedIn comes in, right? Use LinkedIn to get the high paying clients,
Yeah.
and then hire Lacy to get your content out to all the people, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I just want to say, like, it's not as expensive as a lot of people assume it will be. Like, we're certainly not the cheapest blog writers out there, but we're also not the most expensive, and it's not as prohibitively expensive. I think people sometimes look at it and they're like, "Whoa, I can't even talk to her because it's going to be so pricey," And I don't think it's that. I don't think that's true. I think we can come up with a custom marketing plan for what you would pay for some of these marketing courses. So I can come up with something totally custom for you for what you pay for a cookie cutter
And
course.
do you work with your clients on the SEO, like not just getting it, but looking at it? Like,
Yeah, we
here's
have
what
a
it was
gal on
when
the
you.
team who can do that. So she can tell you what your keywords are. She can tell you where your low hanging fruit is. Like, hey, if you just change the title on this post, you'll get more, things like that. That's one of my favorite things that she does. And another one is when when we do the editorial calendar. So when we're actually planning out your future content, she can go in and like assign a keyword to each post so we know what we're shooting for. But also she has this nifty tool where it predicts the search volume on particular, so it's like a graph.
Oh, cool.
And it predicts the search volume on particular keywords. So she might see that like, oh, in August, whatever, I don't know, like,
right.
LinkedIn profiles is a really great keyword. So we want to definitely write a post about that in August. And it's like, how do they even know? But I don't know.
How do they
But
even know,
it's
right?
really cool. I
No,
think that's a really cool thing, because then we can create our calendar to coincide with like the search trends.
Right. Well, here's where I was going with this though, Lacy, because you know me, I want you to get business.
Yeah.
If you can show, if you like, what I want to see is, okay, so we started working with Lacy on July 15th, and by, August 15th or September 15th, here's what happened to our SEO, and here's what happened to our clients. Here's how many inquiries we got, right?
Yeah.
Like what, you know what I mean? Let it pay for itself. Like, let it pay for itself.
100%.
Because exactly, at the end of the day, that's why I love bringing people like you on the show, because it isn't about what it's going to cost you. It's about what it's going to make you.
Totally. Well, and we always talk about metrics with our clients. A lot of times when my clients come to me, they're not friendly with their data, which is okay. That's fine. But we always would talk about metrics, because I want to see, when you sign a contract with us, we ask for a 6-month engagement. And at the end of that 6 months, we want to see that all your numbers are trending in the right direction. Right. So we talk about what should you be tracking. And like, we also talk about what are vanity metrics that don't actually matter that much, If a great example is like, if you post something on LinkedIn in the feed and it gets 25 claps, like likes, and stuff, that's awesome. And it doesn't necessarily guarantee that you're going to get any inquiries for business. So like the number of engagements on a post is one of those vanity metrics sometimes, right? Because you can get great engagement, but not actually see any sales. So we would rather concentrate on how many inquiries did you get? How many sales did you get after you posted that?
Yep.
Make sure it's working. Yeah.
This is so good, Lacy. Thanks so much for being here. LacyBoggs.com is where you can find Lacy. And hopefully I'm going to add this. Well, and at some in my mind, this is getting added to the blog page of the KarenYankovich.com/068 when Lacy was a guest on the show, so that you can watch this again. But you can obviously watch it again on the LinkedIn page and on the Facebook page also. So cool. Does anybody have any questions for Lacy before we road here?
I'm an open book, so
all right. Well, you can tag her in the tag. If you want to tag her in the comments, and she can jump in as well. Yeah, so totally. Cool. Thank you so much for being here, Lacy. This was fun.
My pleasure. Yeah, it was nice to see you.
All right. Take care.